Welcome everybody to another one of Suidlanders chats with me and Simon Roche. And yeah, we spoke Tuesday. You got a bit heated. Well, let me first say welcome and hello, Simon, before before I jump right into it. Hi, Simon. How are you?
Hello, everybody. I'm well, thank you. And I apologize for the strange lighting quality. I'm in a little hotel room in Moscow, drinking water with that says aqua, aqua, water with like multivitamin uh, tablet, brace tablet, effervescent tablet.
Yeah.
Um, I'm well, thanks. Yeah, I apologize for the lighting quality. Little hotel room, not much good lighting here. And if I move a bit, and this happens often, the voltage changes, then the lamp, the only good lamp of the lighting arrangements in this place kind of, it goes all orange.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've seen the lighting change every now and again, but it's understandable. No, I've got some good comments on our last video that we did on Tuesday, where there was some people that's been following you for quite a while that said it was good and fun to see Simon getting heated again about certain things. So it went down well, and yeah, no, and a lot of in the comments said they hope. Trump is going to give Cyril a snot clap, which he sort of did, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very skeptical, extremely, Marius, and I know that it drives people crazy and they don't want to hear it. But as far as I'm concerned, that guy is fanning the flames. I'm going to translate it. We don't speak Afrikaans in these interviews because we want to reach a wider audience. But just for the sake of the Afrikaans speakers, I'm going to translate that expression, fanning the flames. Hy blaas die kole warm. Ek sê vir julle hy blaas die kole warm. I think that he's agitating. But yeah, so be it. These things have to come to a head. I said to somebody the other day who was translating for me, I had a meeting with the head of a big, well-organized, very, very well-organized patriotic organization here. Talking to the translator, I said, bring it to a head, or it's coming to a head, and he didn't understand the idiomatic English, and I then said to him, and I ended up having to give this sort of very blunt explanation. It refers to a boil. Bringing a boil to a head, putting a hot poultice on it, putting whatever substance on it so that you can squeeze it and get rid of it forever. Sooner or later, things do have to come to a head. So if I am right and he's agitating because he wants tension and trouble and what have you, then yeah, it may not be a bad thing. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, he's fanning flames. But it may be necessary in the end, or I may be wrong. Maybe I'll be proven wrong about what role he's playing in all of this. But if you ask me, the conservative audience is being taken for suckers again for the 100th time in a row, no exceptions in between. But that's just me, Marius.
Yeah, yeah. I spoke to the lady. Well, I didn't spoke. I got a nice message from her this morning. The
Mhm.
lady that started like 22, 23 years ago, the Witkruis Monument.
Oh, yes.
She started planting the crosses next to the road, and then the government said, "Listen, yeah, this is government property. You can't do it on the road." Then they moved it to the farm, and then she left it in other people's hands to carry on with it. But she sent me a message this morning and said, after 22, 23 years, it is so nice to finally see what she started being displayed on an international scale with presidents talking to each other. And she just
Mm.
felt, wow. she started something, and now after that many years, it's been recognized. Not just the monument that she did, the the reason why she started the monument, and uh, and I thought, yeah, wow, nee, how many of us can say we've started something, and 22, 23 years later, it's making an impact on
Mm,
the international stage.
mm. Yeah, as I said to you the last time we spoke, that whole Jumbo Jet initiative was the product of our tour of the USA in 2017. There's simply no two ways about it. I told you that Charles C. Johnson, Chuck Johnson, contacted me just after the tour ended and said that the president has been, he didn't use the word obsessing, but this is very much on the president's mind. And I told you that in John Bolton's autobiography of that period, John Bolton, the former national security advisor, he mentions in two places in the book how the president was very much distracted by the Afrikaner Boer cause. And at the time, we were the only people there, and we were there for 6 months, and we did, oh, I'm sure over 100 interviews and spoke to tens of thousands of people. So it was the product of that. And it's, I don't know, it's not all that fulfilling for me personally because I'm not on the jumbo jet and I don't want to be on the jumbo jet and it's got nothing to do with Suidlanders.
Mhm.
But yes, sometimes seeds sown in a season bear fruit only in years after. So
Yeah.
it is a good thing. It is a good thing, and it's a reminder to us to keep doing our work. Just today, I was walking back from sorting out my Russian telephone, which is woo, it's difficult to get it. A Russian telephone and a number, but I finally got one. It's charging now, and hopefully I'll set it up over the next 2 or 3 days with WhatsApp and Telegram and X and probably not YouTube because YouTube is very strictly controlled here. You can gain limited access to it, but it's, yeah, very strictly controlled. Anyway, my point being that as I was strolling back from the place where the job was finished, I thought to myself that we all have to remember that every little bit does make a difference, which has not been a philosophy in my life. Um, for, I suppose, the first 50 years of my life, my philosophy was that it's childlike to think that just one drop in the bucket makes a difference.
Mhm.
And that's for foolish people. You must make big efforts and make a
Yeah.
big difference. Otherwise, it doesn't count. But that's not true. Every prayer does count. Every every heartfelt moment of faith does count. And every action that we do for the right reasons does count in the end. Although as human beings who are constricted by time, our earthly lives are finite and short. You don't think that they're short when you're 6 years old, but when you're in your 50s, you look back and think, gee, that happened quickly.
Mhm.
Therefore, we're inclined to want instant gratification. If I don't get it now,
Yeah.
it's not worth me investing the time and, kick the bucket the day after, whatever. It varies from thing to thing, obviously. But we tend not to want to steadily invest small amounts of effort in the hope that uh, when we're on our deathbed or in our children's time, or hopefully sooner,
Yeah.
there will be results. No, we get impatient about it, but yeah, you're right. You're right, Maurice.
Yeah, Simon. And I think the positive thing we can take out of this is that the exposure on the bigger scale now of what's happening in South Africa is when anarchy might break out in South Africa, and we follow the Suidlanders plan. then people will know that this is the reason why we're doing it. We are protecting ourselves, and we, I mean, it's not going to be a shock then. Oh, in South Africa, there's war brewing or a civil war or whatever, and now there's this small community doing this or that or whatever. So yeah, I think the international stage will start realizing why we've got a plan, why it's necessary for us to have a plan.
And that's why it's necessary for us to be in Russia, Marius.
Yes.
We have to inform the world of our existence and of the prophecies and that sort of thing. Although here in Russia, there's very, very, very little scope for that. They're Eastern Orthodox people. The Roman Catholic Pope kicked them out of the church at the Hagia Sophia, the old church in Constantinople. People will have seen it. It's written Hagia Sophia, but it's pronounced Hagia Sophia. It means holy knowledge, the church of holy knowledge. And it was one of the great churches of Christendom until 1453 when the Muslims, the Turks, managed to destroy the Eastern Roman Empire, based at Constantinople. It was Rome. It wasn't anything different. It was Rome, but it was the Eastern Roman Empire at Constantinople. It's referred to as Byzantium. People talk about a Byzantine or Byzantine thing, whatever the thing may be, painting, for instance. That's named for the original village, the site on which the Emperor Constantine constructed the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire when he decided they needed to have two capitals.
Hmm.
And that's on the Black Sea, on the Bosphorus, where the straits are narrow, the Dardanelles. And so the Muslims came in and they destroyed Byzantium or Constantinople, and they took over that church. But in 1054, the Pope of Rome sent a group of delegates there to fight with the Easterners of the Universal Church. There wasn't any split in the church at the time. Well, there had been some things along the way, but not totally. It was one universal church, and Catholic means universal. It's just universal in another language. It's nothing but universal. So there was one universal Christian church, and the Pope sent some Okies there to tell the Easterners, the people who became Eastern Orthodox. At the time, it was one universal church. So there wasn't a Roman Catholic Church and an Eastern Orthodox Church. There was a Catholic Church, a universal church. And he sent Okies there to straighten out the Easterners over a couple of things. One word, Theotokos, Mother of God, and over some administrative stuff. Although people talk about the icons, the little paintings that the Eastern Orthodox that they venerate. They say they don't worship them, so it's not. They don't run afoul of the second commandment that thou shalt not make for thyself a graven image. They say we don't worship them. We just venerate them. Now that's a very debatable thing, especially in the South African environment where the tradition of Christianity in South Africa is heavily dominated by Calvinism. I'm not trying to convince anybody that they should think like an Eastern Orthodox person. I'm just saying that that's the way they see it. And
Yeah. Simon, lost you there for a bit.
am I back?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So they have a prejudicial view because they were kicked out of the Catholic Church. They didn't volunteer to leave in 1054. So there's so much of a gulf between us and them that, that advertising the prophecies to them is not really feasible. It just doesn't work that way.
Mm.
You lose people's interest. They don't want you to come here and tell them about uh, things in the Western tradition. It means that you will get fewer interviews. It means that interviews will be shorter. It means that the number of people that watch the interviews will be fewer, and they will watch the interviews for a shorter period of time. So there's absolutely no point talking about the prophecies if it's destructive, if it's counterproductive. But I do mention them in passing to the people. But
Yeah.
to make the point, um, as you were saying, there is a reason for us being here. We're not here just for a jolly patrolly. On the contrary, I've been in Russia now for 15 days,
Mm.
and I've not been to any sights and sounds and beautiful places. I have been taken to dinner, and I've viewed, I've videoed some of that. I was taken to the Victory Day parade, and I took what you call it of that. But we don't go gallivanting around. It's in principle wrong. We're here to work and only to work.
Yeah.
And that has always been our policy at the European Parliament or in Brussels when visiting the European Parliament and in Germany, in Berlin, in Frankfurt, everywhere. Um, so if we can't talk about the prophecies, what we can do is talk about the existence of Suidlanders.
Yes.
Raise awareness in that sense. And also advertise our patriotism and nationalism, because in certain circles, that's kind of paramount. That's what they want to hear about. Caucasian, conservative, Christian, Boer people standing up for themselves, believing in themselves, believing in their cause. And thirdly, to make contacts, which we're doing quite nicely. I haven't been invited for tea at the Kremlin, but I have made some phenomenal contacts that
Mm.
you wouldn't expect to make in 5 lifetimes. I never ever thought that I'd be holding conversations in which it turns out half an hour into the conversation that I'm dealing with two guys with very high rank, asking me advice and how I see things. And I never thought I'd be holding a conversation as I did the other night, in which a guy explained to oh, Marius, this guy, a very senior guy, explained to me the nature of BRICS and explained to me the nature of dealing with the South African government. And of course, I know it because firstly, I'm a South African and I live in the new South Africa rainbow paradise. And secondly, because I did a lot of work for the ANC for a very long time, either the ANC as the party or the ANC as the government. Um, so you don't have to tell me about that kind of stuff. And in fact, I've been saying it in interviews with you for almost a year now.
Yeah.
For instance, I pointed out Putin and Xi's reaction to Cyril Ramaphosa's valedictory, goodbye speech at the BRICS summit, where their behavior towards him was absolutely the most embarrassingly rude behavior. But as I said to you, I know exactly what that stems from.
Mm.
Because they go into these things and they make all of the promises in the world and they keep none of them. They arrive late for meetings. They are the only party in the meeting that doesn't keep meticulous notes, and they end up asking for copies of the Chinese people's notes. I mean, it's amateurism like you can't believe. And BRICS is a very big and powerful and important thing that the Russians firstly, and the Chinese are trying to get right to completely change the balance of power, geopolitical and geostrategic
Mm.
imperatives and power in the world. And here you've got South Africans who arrive late for every meeting without fail. And when they do get there, they don't have a pen and a pencil and a rubber and a ruler and a piece of paper. And when on the occasions that there's a pen and a pencil and a rubber and a ruler and a piece of paper provided for them on the desk in front of them, they won't take notes. I know, I've been through it. I've been that guy who's, in a meeting of 12 people on 65 different occasions, was the one kippie who took notes. And then let's say you do take notes or share your notes with somebody, they will never read them. Never, not for 1 minute, much less fulfill the various tasks recorded by those notes. So here I was in this meeting with this guy, and he was saying to me, listen, don't be fooled. Um, the government is doing what it has to do, but we understand what we're dealing with, and we know who are you and your people. When he says you, he doesn't mean Simon Roche. I mean, I'm, just the face. Suidlanders and the folk. Uh, so that was very interesting. I was actually quite uncomfortable during that meeting, hearing somebody so senior and influential saying things like that. I thought, just see. Uh, it's not often that you hear people speak so bluntly about the calamity that is happening in our country. Having said that, I'll segue, as the Americans call it. I think we've still got some time. To yesterday's spanking.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, spanked like a young boy, huh? Put
Yeah.
over the knee, had your pants pulled down in front of all the uncles and aunties at the birthday party or whatsoever event where you've been behaving badly and your parents have just had enough, yanked you by the arm, put
Mm.
you over the knee, pulled your pants down, showed your bottom to the whole extended family, and spanked it until you wept. That
Yeah.
was a diplomatic drama of the worst kind, because it was blunt. It wasn't a screaming match.
Yeah.
Uh, for for one president to say to another president, basically, I'm using my own words now. Oh, you deny it, do you? Well, here are the receipts. Here's the evidence. Here are the papers. Dim the lights, boys. Turn the lights down.
I
Now I'm
liked
going
it.
to
I
turn.
liked it a lot when he said, "Dim the lights, dim the lights. Let's watch this here." Yeah.
uh, Embarrassment of the first water. But as I said to you, Marius, I don't think it's going to turn out well for anybody. I think, if you look at it beyond the superficial, if you
Mm.
look at it a little bit more deeply, I think that he's fanning flames a little bit. But okay, let's give the benefit of the doubt. And it was good to see those clowns be put in their place. And it was good to see how poorly John Steenhuisen fared. Oh,
Mm.
oh, oh,
I think he's lost a lot of support here in South Africa
oh.
by this trip.
He showed the showed the firmness of a fish. He showed the spine of an eel scurrying away to find cover under a rocky ledge off the coast of Amanzimtoti in December. Oh,
Yeah. Yes.
excuse me, swigging my water. I'll tell you a nice little anecdote for those people who are interested. Firstly, let me say, as I've said in other videos, for the benefits of those people who have not watched the other videos, Russia is an eye-opener. It's fantastic. It's incredible. You've got to see it to believe it, because there just is relatively so little on the internet. I did, as I've explained previously, a lot of research for this trip, and I struggled to find anything worthwhile on Russia other than stories about the Volga River, nature stories, and Siberia. Therefore, I can assure people who have been brought up in the Western tradition, unless you've been here, you haven't a clue how spectacular it is.
Yeah.
Number two, however, the present laws pertaining to uh, phones and the internet are such that if you do come here, and I encourage everybody, if you can afford it, I know money doesn't grow on trees, but if you're able to, I promise you, it's better than a trip to most places in Europe. Um, you should get the help of Dmitry Balkovsky. I will forward his number to Arnold so that he can insert it in this video. Dmitry offers a service that enables foreigners to either get a phone, or if they don't get a phone, getting the phone is difficult. It is unbelievably difficult, but they're improving it all of the time. And if you say, okay, help me get a phone, Dmitry, he'll say, all right, I'm going to charge you this much for well, I'll get one of the young girls who speaks perfect English that works for me to do it for you, to meet you at the hotel tomorrow, and she'll take you to the Goslugi and to the Spergasa. If you don't, for whatever reason, want a phone, you still probably want a guy like him to show you some basics for a day or two, right? So that's the second point. It's fantastic. Please visit is point number one. Point number two is, let me not be a liar and say that it's the easiest thing in the world. It is not the easiest thing in the world. Now to tell my little anecdote. Now that my conscience feels a little bit better that I've given a balanced thing. It's very pleasant here, but there are flaws, few, that have emerged from the sanctions. On the one hand, the sanctions have been fantastic for Russia. They've boosted the Russian economy. They've enabled all sorts of black market stuff to happen, whereby there is now a greater variety in the shops than there was prior to the sanctions. Okay. Coca-Cola left in protest at Russia's invasion of the special military operation, with the result that the Russians have invented like at least six new Coca-Colas. So
Okay.
every guy with a bottling factory now has the yoke is taken off his neck. Previously, if he tried to copy Coke or Pepsi, we're walking on very, very thin ice. There are all sorts of intellectual property issues, trademarks and copyrights and recipes and you name it. Now that Coke's not here, these guys are all trying to emulate Coke, which in the long term is going to destroy Coca-Cola, because we're living in the 21st century. In the 20th century, many attempts were made to copy Coca-Cola, and they were by and large a failure. Now with the Russia thing, we are seeing, and of course, Twizzler and Kingsley in South Africa are experiments along a similar line. That is true. But we also know that such experiments didn't take place in the 20th century. The 21st century had to come around. And now Russia is this kind of sudden world leader. It's got all of these options that emulate, that are facsimiles of Coca-Cola. Some of them are very nice. But their Coke Zero is lethal. About 15 years ago, I put on a lot of weight, and I was working in the live event industry, very long hours, living on sugar, Coke and Red Bull, 12 Red Bulls a day minimum, and I got big and fat, and I decided I've got to lose weight. So I stopped the Red Bulls altogether, and I stopped the Coke, and I started drinking Coke Zero. And after about a year, I had bad joint pains. And I asked my mom, it was my mom or my dad. My mom's quite a fundy on health things. And she said, it's that blooming Coke Zero that you're drinking. I stopped drinking the Coke Zero, and the joint pains went away like that, just, in a week.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been walking so much here that my legs are permanently kaput. It's just Russians walk. You see they walk, in spite of the fact that they've got this tram, train, and bus system that I'm sure is the envy of the world. I don't think there can be 20 countries in their class. The Chinese, obviously, the Japanese, presumably the Koreans, maybe six or seven or eight European countries, certainly not North America. The USA uh, system is just sadly doesn't come into the class of the Russian system, and certainly not Canada. So I call it, they're in a peer group of 8, 10, 12, the Russians. But nevertheless, and there are lots of private cars here, much fancier than in South Africa, much more, much better, much everything. No shortage of cars. But Russians also walk. They walk and they walk far. And I've been chasing after this blasted phone at all of these different venues, backwards and forwards, and I've been absolutely shattered. My feet have been sore, my legs have been sore, my calves. But I had these pains, these joint pains that came along with it that I couldn't remember from the army when I did lots of exercise. For instance, eventually I worked out that the Coke Zero that I've been drinking in Russia when I'm thirsty, when I pass the Rostiks, which is the KFC, the Coke Zeros that I've been having are just full of aspartame. They've taken the 100% shortcut. They didn't go the long way around. They just said, give us water, CO2 gas, black dye, and aspartame. And they've poured it in by the jugful, with the result that in a very short span of time, I've had a recurrence of these severe joint pains that I had 15 years ago when I was drinking the Coca-Cola crap by the 4 or 5 liters a day. And even though I'm not drinking a fraction of that here in Russia, nevertheless, the stuff is just full of aspartame. And combined with all of the walking, so my legs have gotten these joint pains, and I wake up in the morning and I feel like a cripple. So there you go. I think that's a nice anecdote about Russia, about the adventures here, about the joy of being here. 99% of what I experience is positive. The service is unbelievably
Mm.
good, Marius. If you are sick and tired of that blank-faced, sleepy-eyed, slack-jawed, fat-assed, flat-footed, indifferent service that we've been
Mm.
forced to become used to over the past 35 years in South Africa, come to Russia, Marius. People jump to help you. They've got all these little girls, youngsters, first job, working in a shoe shop or whatever the case may be. It's like living in the 70s.
Yeah.
The service there is incredible. So my point being, Russia is fantastic. But everybody gets a pimple. And so the two pimples that I've experienced in Russia so far are to get a phone and the Coke Zero with like 10% aspartame in it. I was
Yeah.
about to become a scientific experience. But Marius, I see that we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I'll be quiet now and hand it all back to you.
No, thank you, Simon, for another nice Suidlanders chat. I always enjoy it, and yeah, it's nice to hear the every now and again a bit of the update, like you've been doing. I mean, the people can also go look at the letters from Russia that you've done. Arnold has put in some photos and some videos here and there, and hopefully we're going to see just more and more and more as you move away from Moscow soon, hopefully, to some other places. And yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, it makes me think of growing up in the middle of the Namakwaland here in when I was a small boy, where we went on holiday, left the house's doors by accident open, went on holiday for 3 weeks, came back and nothing was gone. It was just
Yes.
yeah. So it makes me, every time you speak about how safe you feel and how comfortable you feel in Russia, that's where my mind goes to that little small boy in the Namakoland, leaving our house doors open over a vacation, going away, far away. We went from Namakoland to, I think, Hartenbos, and coming back after 3 weeks, and absolutely nothing was stolen. No, it was just
Um,
wonderful time to grow up in. But anyway, Simon, thanks a lot. And then, yeah, next week, Tuesday, maybe yeah, it's still in the balance. You
Yes.
said you're still going to let me know how things go.
Yeah, I've got a long journey to do. I've got a very cramped diary. I've got an interview tomorrow. Plus, I have to meet some professor who's apparently a super duper guy. Then I've got a huge film shoot on Saturday. So I don't know when I'm going to be able to do the next leg of the journey, which is up to Arkhangelsk and to Murmansk to the submarine pens on the Barents Sea north of the Arctic Circle. Then I've received an invitation yesterday to visit a very prestigious place in St. Petersburg. And then I've been invited to a forum to be a guest at a big forum here. Apparently, it's more of a big thing. So I don't know how I'm going to fit everything together. But yes, I intend to make, especially now that I have this phone, many more letters from Russia, and I'll let you know about the interview next week, Marius.
Great, Simon. Have a great evening and God bless.
Good night and God bless to all of you.
That's it. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.